Hey guys, Chad here from Take It or Leave It, here with my top 10 biggest disappointments of 2023. And before we hop into this list, let me give you the qualifications for what a disappointment is. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's the opposite of a pleasant surprise. Duh. But I say that just so that you know, this doesn't mean the worst films of 2023. There's actually some good films on here, but they might not have been as good as I was hoping or expecting that they would be. And just FYI, this list is in order, and I'll start with a quick synopsis, and then after the synopsis, I'll tell you what my expectations were for the film, and then what the reality was of my movie-going experience. And with that being said, let's get to the 10th biggest disappointment of 2023, which was Beau is Afraid. Following the sudden death of his mother, a mild-mannered but anxiety-ridden man confronts his darkest fears as he embarks on an epic, Kafka-esque odyssey back home. So regarding my expectations going into the film, I could tell from the trailer that this was going to be a pretty rough ride from Ari Aster, the genius that gave us the scariest film of all time, by the way, Hereditary. But at the same time, I mean, come on, it's Ari Aster. How bad could this actually be? Well, in reality, on the one hand, Ari Aster swung for the frickin' weird in a way I've seen few filmmakers do. I'll keep spoilers to a minimum, but beware the attic. That's all I have to say. And on the other hand, oh my god, what a self-indulgent and pretentious slog this was to get through. I literally fell asleep about halfway through and woke up for the third act, and I never do that. This was so excruciating that despite some weird, twisted curiosity that I have to give it another shot, I honestly can't imagine ever bringing myself to see this thing again. And at number 9, we have Malibu Horror Story. Terror strikes when a team of paranormal investigators search a sacred cave for clues in the unsolved disappearance of 4 Malibu teens. So regarding my expectations going into the film, since we're past the Paranormal Activity era, I'm always excited to see a found footage movie out in theaters, at this point at least, because it seems that if found footage makes it to the theaters, then it's probably at least an okay movie. And with that theory in mind, coupled with the surprisingly positive reviews I was seeing for this, I went into Malibu Horror Story pretty hopeful. Well, in reality, it turns out that this was more of a hypothesis than an actual theory, and my hypothesis was shattered to pieces by the time I left this movie. I won't rehash what I said in my review for this film, but I'm honestly still shocked that this had any kind of a theatrical release. It's as generic, distractingly low budget, and cringy, with half-assed jump scares reminiscent of found footage like Apollo 18 and The Gallows. Skip this and go watch Deadstream again instead, trust me. And at number 8, we have Ghosts of the Void. Spending the night in her car, a newly homeless woman wrestles with exhaustion, her crumbling marriage, and the threat of mysterious masked strangers. In terms of my expectations, I thought the trailer looked really promising, and this subject matter was very poignant and pertinent to life in the US today. Also, I gleaned some supernatural elements that I was pretty excited for. This definitely looked very promising, but in reality, I thought that there was a disappointing amount of focus on the couple's relationship via constant flashbacks, and I thought that the villains were quite disappointing, and I thought that there was a pretty hollow final couple minutes. And while I thought the film was actually well crafted and the performances were quite strong, and I actually really appreciated some of the anti-capitalism themes in the movie, the juice really just wasn't worth the squeeze in my opinion. At number 7, we have Night of the Hunted. A woman stops at a remote gas station in the middle of the night and becomes the target of a sociopathic sniper with a secret vendetta. Simply put, I expected this to be a taut and tension-fueled single-location action thriller, much like Phone Booth. But in reality, this was not like Phone Booth. What made Phone Booth so great was the mystery of the shooter, this sense that he couldn't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with, and his persistent determination to push Farrell's character to either redemption or death. And unfortunately, Night of the Hunted shows all of its cards up front. Look, without trying to get into religion or politics. This is about two stereotypes from opposing political sides having a Twitter spat over the phone rather than over Twitter. No joke, this is pretty much what the entire second act is like. Her, but gun reform. Him, deep state. Me, both of you kill yourselves right frickin' now so this can end and I can move on with my life. And for the record, I'm allowed to do that accent, okay? I'm originally from the South. I used to have a twang. It comes out when I'm with my mom's family, alright? I'm allowed to. I didn't just offend anybody, alright? So just kick it down the road. I want to hear it in the comments. I'm allowed to do that. At number 6, we have Deliver Us. When a nun in a remote convent claims immaculate conception, the Vatican sends a team of priests to investigate, concerned about an ancient prophecy that a woman will give birth to twin boys, one the Messiah, the other the Antichrist. So going into this film, I thought that it looked gorgeous and it was going to be a theological, gothic horror, but in reality, it feels like this movie was sold with a great first half script, but then the investors were like, okay, we're in. Just have the second half of the script finished by tomorrow and give it an ending that'll please the religious crowd, won't you? The second half of the film gets so convoluted and nonsensical, and it ends with such a wah 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 kind of ending that I just can't recommend it despite enjoying the hell out of the first half. And at number 5, we have Ennis Men. Set in 1973 on an uninhabited island off the Cornish coast, a wildlife volunteer's daily observations of a rare flower turn into a metaphysical journey that forces her, as well as the viewer, to question what is real and what is a nightmare. In terms of my expectations for the film, a critic that I'm a fan of had glowing things to say about this film, and that coupled with the David Lynch directs The Lighthouse vibes that I was getting from this, I mean, yeah, let's go. But in terms of the reality, holy shit, guys, this took me 3 attempts to finish this movie. I cannot emphasize enough how unbelievably boring this movie was and how slow paced it is. But this is also one of those films, there's a few of them on this list, that I recommend you see for yourself if it looks interesting. Maybe I missed something, but if I didn't, you better have a Red Bull IV bag just tapped right in there, right into the vein, and ready to go, because this thing will knock you out in 10 minutes flat. And at number 4, we have Infinity Pool. James and M. Foster are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation in the fictional island of La Tolca when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Brandon Cronenberg, who directed Antiviral and Possessor. Both of those are great films. I recommend them highly. And with him directing Alexander Skarsgård and, more importantly, Mia Goth, like, are you kidding me? This sounds freaking unbelievable. But in reality, while certainly bold and interesting and unique, this film felt so ungodly long and painful to get through. I actually thought it was 3 hours long, and I just looked. It's only like a little more than 2.5 hours, but dude, it felt like a solid 3 hours, 3:05 maybe. I'm not kidding. The film felt so long and meandering that whatever interesting themes and messages the film definitely has and is discussing are just not worth hanging around for at the end of the day. And we're getting down to it. At number 3, we have The Puppet Man. The puppeteer, a convicted murderer on death row, has always maintained his innocence, claiming that it was an evil force that controlled his body as he slaughtered his victims. Dude, I was so excited for this because this film was directed by the director who made Z. And if you haven't seen Z before, here's a quick clip.
Hey Mom, look at me! Come on, come play!
Yeah, don't even try it. Don't even try to say that wasn't utterly terrifying. It absolutely was. We're all horrified who just saw that. This film is scary as shit, and it's on Shudder and AMC Plus. I definitely recommend you check it out if you haven't seen it already. And yeah, after I saw Z, I thought we might have a new Ari Aster, Jennifer Kent, or Robert Eggers on our hands. And maybe we still do, but if so, then man, this was a bad day at the office for this director. Because this was an absolutely nonsensical film that felt like the plot was just being made up as it went along, coupled with the highly unlikable and uninteresting characters and a generic-ass ending. I hate to say it, but this was a massive step down from Z, and you know what? I'll give the director another shot. They'll get another at-bat, and I'm looking forward to it. Fingers crossed for something better next time. At number 2, we have Talk to Me. When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. In terms of my expectations, A24? Check. Horror movie? Check. Unique premise? Check. I'm all in. But in reality... Ooh, bye guys. Yep. Bye. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Hey, thanks for being a part of this as long as you have been. You know, that's all I can ask. Peace, love, and life. We'll be here if you change your mind, but I appreciate it. Yep, you can close the door on your way out. Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just had to say goodbye to a third of the subscriber base because I'm about to talk shit on this movie. But screw them. Who needs them? You know? I'm here for the 2/3 that remain. God love you. Look, I'm in the minority on this one. I know. This is a beloved movie. Some people say it's the best horror film of last year. And look, I get it. I did an extended review for this film in which I basically said that I loved the movie on a first viewing, but had serious reservations about the writing and the story upon a second viewing. And look, I stand by what I said. This is a very well-made film with a lot to love, so I'm not surprised that this was such a big hit. But unfortunately for me, I just couldn't look past the writing and story issues that I had. So while not a terrible film, it was massively disappointing for me because I personally saw so much potential with this film after my first viewing. That being said, I'm very much looking forward to catching the sequel in theaters and hope that it potentially patches up some of the issues I had with the first film. And the number one biggest disappointment of 2023 is Knock at the Cabin. While vacationing, a girl and her parents are taken hostage by armed strangers who demand that the family make a choice to avert the apocalypse. Oh man, the Sham Hammer. What are we gonna do with you, friend? In terms of my expectations, I was as skeptical as the next person about the Sham Hammer until I saw Split, which I thought was fan-frickin-tastic and was one of my favorite films of that year. Couple that with a strong indie effort with The Visit, and I've been officially rooting for the man ever since. And toss in a synopsis about the impending apocalypse, and I had high hopes for this film. But in reality, this is a weird one. Here's the thing. This film is fine. It's just fine, but that by itself is very disappointing. In particular, I thought that the last act pretty much ruined the movie for me. It was extremely anticlimactic and far too fluffy, resolved, and ignorantly optimistic about humanity. And for the longest time, this film was actually the second most disappointing film of 2023 for me. In fact, this was the case until December of last year when a little unexpected film came out called Leave the World Behind. And if you've seen my review for that movie, you already know I frickin' loved it. And upon seeing this Netflix film several times, it finally dawned on me. Leave the World Behind was everything I wanted Knock at the Cabin to be. There's far more expertly crafted tension. We actually feel the character's world falling apart around them, and the ending was proportionately bleak considering the circumstances. And yes, I should only be judging Knock at the Cabin on its own merits, but dude, I'm only human, come on, I can't unsee Leave the World Behind. And once I had, it made Knock at the Cabin that much more of a disappointment considering I felt like I saw what Knock at the Cabin's full potential could have been. So yeah, in the last lap of 2023, I had to call an audible and chuck Knock at the Cabin up to the number one biggest disappointment of 2023 spot. And look, I'm still rooting for you, Shamhammer. I am, but you know, come on, man. Next one needs to be a hit. But those are just my thoughts. Take it or leave it. What do you guys think? What do you think of this list? And what were the biggest disappointments for you in 2023? Let me know down in the comment section. Let's talk about it. And as usual, guys, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate it. Don't be afraid to hit that like and subscribe button. And until next time, I'm Chad from Take It or Leave It, and I'll check you later.
Check you later. Check you later. Hey, man, get off my case.
Man, chicks don't want to hear that shit.